Hello, everyone. I am Dee Parker, S&T Industry Liaison. I want to thank you for joining us today for the 7th webinar in the Insights Outreach series hosted by DHS, S&T, and Office of Industry Partnerships. So the goal of these series is to help you navigate S&T's partnership opportunities, understand DHS mission needs, and identify paths to funding to help get the best homeland security solutions to the market faster. We invite you to join us the first Tuesday of every month for the webinar series. You can find a list of upcoming webinars and recordings of our previous videos on the DHS S&T events page. Now for today's webinar, you will learn about the unique program and opportunities that S&T uses to collaborate and form strategic partnerships with other government agencies, industry, foreign partners, and academia. Please note that if you have any questions or comments, be sure to put them in the Q&A chat box later on for this webinar. With that, I will introduce you to S&T's Office of Innovation and Collaboration, Mike Robertson, who is our Senior Advisor. Hello, Mike, over to you.
All right, thank you, Dee, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Today's webinar provides us with an opportunity to share what I think we do best, which is build partnerships through innovation and collaboration. As the Senior Advisor of S&T's Office of Innovation and Collaboration, I'd like to set the tone for today's webinar and provide you with some insight into INC's capabilities. So we are 4 days now away from the 20th anniversary of the tragic attacks of September 11th. DHS was created as a result of that horrific day in our nation. Everything was new and we were still trying to figure out gaps in security as we were building the tools to address them. Just based on the nature of the attacks, we primarily focused on aviation security, but then we rapidly opened up our aperture to expand to other threats. I'm proud to say that we've made significant progress since then. Fast forward to early 2020, and admittedly, COVID-19 caught us off guard. Here we were again, we were trying to understand the threat as we were developing the tools to address the threat. Thankfully, we were better able to respond. For example, we saw the fragility of our supply chains and how that impacted our personal protective equipment, our PPE supply. One of our labs, our National Biodefense Analysis and Countermeasures Center, the NBAC, and our S&T program managers were actually able to develop procedures to use household appliances like a pressure cooker to decontaminate the PPE, which would then allow them to be reused so that they were available to our frontline workers, our healthcare, and our first responders. So changes in the man-made threat, both international and domestic, and then the rapid technology changes we've seen over the 20 years have brought new challenges to DHS. COVID is not the only natural crisis we're dealing with right now. If you look at the impacts our changing climate is having, in particular over the last year and a half, you realize that we're going full bore. For instance, hurricanes. Hurricane Ida recently hit my home state of Louisiana, and then its remnants moved through the southeast and then impacted me here in the DC metro area, and then further up the northeastern coast. For those of you out west, the wildfire seasons, the past 5-10 wildfire seasons have just been intense. The emergency managers and the citizens there just push their limits, struggling to contain the damage and save lives. So the national reach of all these challenges is why partnerships are so important to S&T. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So technology like security is a cross-cutting issue. We have to understand and acknowledge and lean into the strategic role that partnerships plays in helping us operationalize science and transition these tools and technologies to market. S&T is committed to investing in the partnerships and the public-private collaborations at all levels needed to make this happen. And that's where INC comes in. So if I had to define us in a few words, it would be, we're a force multiplier. We have a range of capabilities and tools and laboratory infrastructure and in-house experts that help DHS accelerate its R&D efforts. We leverage a diverse group of external partners to help develop tools and technologies for DHS and then help move these solutions into the marketplace so that they can be used by the end users. So how do we do this? First, through leveraging partnerships, in particular the R&D that happens across the federal government and across industry. For example, we have strong ties with the Department of Energy labs that help us address these cross-functional homeland security challenges and leverage the R&D that they are doing there. We have a consortium of federally funded research and development centers. We have our academic centers of excellence. We have our industry groups that all help us conduct short and long-term research to give us the foresight we need to anticipate emerging threats, identify technology trends, address gaps, and again, ultimately create solutions that we deploy for use in operational environments. And then finally, we want to look at our network of S&T labs. We have 5 labs at 7 distinct sites across 3 states. I mentioned the NBAC, our biological pathogen and threat defense and characterization group. We also have our explosive detection and characterization, our chemical hazard detection and characterization, our first responder and urban security T&E environment, and then finally our animal disease defense detection and characterization group. All of these are really important in building that foundation, that laboratory infrastructure foundation, and that subject matter expertise we need to operationalize the science, to inform policy that helps us better respond and prevent the next big challenge. If we can move to the next slide, please. So on the right-hand side, you see our footprint across the country. I mentioned the labs, the centers of excellence, our leveraging of the Department of Energy labs, but I really want to focus on the left-hand side here, because it's not just our national presence, but our global presence that we use to leverage a network of subject matter experts and capabilities. And we pull these into the Homeland Security environment to support our mission. We have 13 bilateral relationships, one-to-one country relationships that allow us to exchange information, to exchange equipment, to exchange people, and to exchange funding to work for these collaborative projects that address mutually beneficial projects for us and our partners. One big example of this would be we recently started a pilot with the Republic of Korea, South Korea, looking to share information on baggage screening. So on flights from Seoul to Atlanta, we're looking at the screening that they have done on checked bags, sharing that with our partners in TSA and CBP, so they have 14 hours to review the scan to identify any threats. And this will then allow us to not have to pull those bags out and then carry it to the new security checkpoint and recheck it. It's really convenient for the traveler, but 2, and more importantly, if we continue the post-COVID, the trends we saw in air travel and the volume of air travel that we were seeing pre-COVID, then we'd rapidly run up against capacity issues at a lot of our checkpoints. This allows us to increase capacity and throughput without sacrificing security. Below that, we also have multilateral relationships. So you have the European Council and NATO. I want to take a couple of seconds to talk about our 5RD, the 5-Country Research and Development Council. So this is a linking between Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US, to where we share research and development. Initially, we were looking at things like information on violent extremism, or human trafficking and child exploitation, or emerging trends in technology. 16 months ago, we started sharing information on COVID. It was not just sharing information, but actually doing joint work and having one country's work help influence the other. And by that, I mean, we got our expert microbiology and epidemiologists together from the 5 countries, said, hey, here are the problems we're addressing. Here are the questions we're asking. What are you doing? And by doing that, we wouldn't repeat information. We're actually able to collaborate and do more as the 5 of us working in a coordinated fashion than we could as 5 individuals simply sharing information. And based on that, we're able to inform policy and operationalize that science in a way that helped all of our respective countries. So from here, I want to admit that we want our relationships to be more than transactional. We want them to be transformative. We want our operating environments, or at the very least, our perspectives and the lens through which we look at security to improve because of these relationships. Innovation is not possible without a common purpose and full inclusion of diverse viewpoints and experiences. We try to use each collaboration, each meeting, each webinar to identify potential partners and relationships that will help us progress toward a more secure country. So today you're going to hear from 3 offices within INC that are doing just that. We have our Office of Safety Act Implementation, our Office of University Programs, and our Office of Industry Partnerships. So with that, I'll turn it over to our first speaker, Don Roberts, who is the Director of the Office of Safety Act Implementation. So Don, it's all yours.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. As Mike said, I'm Don Roberts. I'm the Acting Director of the Office of Safety Act Implementation. And the Safety Act is designed to collaborate in the risk management arena with primarily the private sector to drive innovation in developing anti-terrorism technologies. In fact, Safety Act is an acronym, as many things are in the federal space, and stands for Support Anti-Terrorism by Fostering Effective Technologies Act. And this was part of the original, the Homeland Security Act of 2002, and was a unique piece of the legislation providing for legal liability protections to foster the continued use of effective anti-terrorism technologies, as well as encourage innovation in this field of technologies. The purpose of the act is to ensure that the threat of liability does not deter potential manufacturers or sellers of the anti-terrorism technologies from developing, deploying, or commercializing technologies that could save lives. These protections arise out of and are related to an act of terrorism as declared by the Secretary of Homeland Security. And the responsibility for the execution of the Safety Act program resides within DHS Science and Technology Directorate, and specifically within the S&T's Office of Innovation and Collaboration, as Mike just described. But the bottom line is the Safety Act program was intended to be an incentivizing program to foster development and deployment of anti-terrorism technology by allowing the private sector to manage risk and limit their liability in the event of an act of terrorism. Next slide, please. So the liability protections that I mentioned, fall into 3 main categories, or 3 categories, as called out in Section 6 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 25, and that is the federal regulation that details the implementation within DHS of the Safety Act. This is also known as the DHS Final Rule for Implementing Safety Act. These 3 categories of protections follow basically the technology's proven effectiveness range, from consistent proven effectiveness with high confidence of long-term enduring performance, as in the red category here, certification, to promising technologies that are mature enough to test in the operational environment. And this level of protection allows for innovative technologies to have liability coverages and risk management protections while being tested in the operational environment to gather the necessary effectiveness data to qualify for the next level of protections. So more details of these protections and definitions can be found on the Safety Act website, which is www.safetyact.gov. Next slide, please. So this is really a snapshot of the types of technologies, as well as some of the office's impacts. I'm not going to go into too much of this, but our protections are widespread and have ranged across a technology spectrum, from relatively straightforward detection technologies, such as magnetometers that have long-term proven effectiveness, to applications for full stadium and arena venue security postures. So a wide and varied set of types of technologies that are afforded protections. But the bottom line is, we feel with this widespread coverage and technology types and effectiveness that, we are implementing implementing the program as Congress intended, and have been successful with over 1,100 applications approved since the inception of the program. And we feel that we're continuing to impact the landscape with current work with our technology innovators, as well as our strong partnerships with major sports leagues. Next slide, please. So finally, I wanted to mention that we have significant outreach and engagement opportunities for anyone interested in Safety Act protections for their anti-terrorism technology offerings. The main interface is the website that's shown here that I mentioned. We have a frequently asked questions list that provides a lot of details. We have more detailed definitions on the protections, as well as going into the application process. And we offer many opportunities and avenues to talk through the whole process and help assist with things mentioned here, consulting discussions, pre-application reviews and submission reviews, and that we highly recommend that any potential applicants take advantage of these opportunities to reach out and talk to us so we can help you guide your application and frame just how to best go about to make the process less time consuming for you as well as us going forward. And our site visits have been curtailed a bit by the pandemic, but that is something that we go out and view technologies as well as stadiums and security services to see whether we can guide you better in the application process. Our public outreach events, luckily we're able to still do those by vehicles like this and others, but we look forward to talking with you, and please visit the website. You can find any way to outreach to us and take advantage of these offerings that we have if you have something that's you want to submit and talk with us about. So thank you for your time and attention. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Jen Foley, who's the Deputy Director of the Office of University Programs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time today. I'm very pleased to be here with you to share with you information about the Office of University Programs, or OUP. The Office of University Programs plays an important role in delivering innovation to the DHS enterprise through a three-pronged approach, including centers of excellence, education and workforce development, and minority-serving institutions. OUP fosters a coordinated university-based system to enhance capabilities critical to anticipating challenges to the nation's security. Through the Centers of Excellence, OUP conducts groundbreaking research and develops critical technologies to secure the homeland. More on this on the next slide. In addition to research, DHS recognizes the importance of our current and future workforce. The Workforce Development and Minority Serving Institutions, or MSI, programs focus on advancing the strategic and operational research capabilities of students and researchers, recruit and diversify the next generation of Homeland Security workforce, and support knowledge, interests, and skills required to succeed academically in Homeland Security related activities. Unfortunately, we don't have time to discuss them all, but I'd like to briefly mention a couple of efforts in these areas. The first is our Summer Research Team program, where MSI faculty and students are partnered with a COE to conduct full-time collaborative research. Through this, we're able to draw on the unique intellectual capital within our nation's MSI community to enhance the scientific leadership in areas of importance to DHS and inspire the next generation of thought leaders to Homeland Security. And second is internships. Through our Homeland Security Professional Opportunities for Students Workforce to Experience Research, or HS Power, as Don mentioned, are frequently acronyms in government, and that's quite a lengthy one. This program allows students majoring in Homeland Security related STEM disciplines to gain research experience with DHS components, federal research facilities, and other STEM-focused entities nationwide. Next slide, please. Now for a little bit about our COEs, or Centers of Excellence. The system of COEs is designed to address all 6 DHS mission areas and cover more than 10 operational topics. As you can see from this slide, there are centers addressing border threat screening, criminal investigations, critical infrastructure, maritime, counterterrorism, and others. At any given time, there are 10 active centers of excellence, but we also continue our relationships with emeritus COEs. While the reach of any single COE is extensive, the combination of all of them results in a vast network of more than 200 entities, each of whom play an important role in delivering innovation to the DHS enterprise. This provides DHS with unparalleled access to some of the top researchers in the country. While the COEs can certainly tackle problems currently facing the Homeland Security enterprise and are able to respond to emergent issues such as COVID, they also complement the other work of S&T by taking a more distant look in anticipating challenges that may arise in the future. COEs are bestowed the responsibility of identifying and asking the questions that have not yet been asked. Next slide, please. This slide is a look at the ecosystem required to ensure OUP's success. Though university is in our name, we're not limited to working with universities. And in fact, we look outward throughout the entirety of a center of the life cycle, from concept through project development and ultimately transition. The Office of University Programs and the centers can't operate in a vacuum. We have to understand, one, where there is a need in order to develop a center that will produce relevant research for 10 years. Two, work already being done in a space so that we don't duplicate it. And three, the ideal pathway to a successful transition so that research conducted and technology developed over the preceding years doesn't fall by the wayside. As such, it's vital that we partner with numerous entities outside of academia. Next slide, please. One center that I'd like to highlight is our newest center, which is led by George Washington University, and it's an MBA program curriculum in security technology transition. It offers courses tailored to support research and development in technology transition. The program was developed as there is an established and growing need for professionals skilled in bringing technology research and technological breakthroughs from the classroom and the lab to the marketplace. The MBA STT program educates professionals on navigating established federal acquisition regulations, the research and development processes from a private sector vantage point, and navigating the challenges of technology development from concept to operational use. If you're interested in additional information, please see the link in the chat. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Megan Mail with the Office of Industry Partnerships. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jen, and hello, everyone. If you have attended any of our Insights Outreach sessions this year, you already know a little bit about industry partnerships and the programs that we have. So I will keep my comments brief, but I do want to provide some information to those of you who might be joining us for the first time and have questions about how to work with S&T. So industry partnerships in particular at S&T, our role really is three-pronged. So first, we do a lot of engaging with industry. Events like this, we do a lot of outreach. We put together a lot of information to provide on our programs, business opportunities, partnership opportunities. We are trying to reach new people. We want people who have not worked with S&T before to become aware of the opportunities we have, the missions across DHS, and become interested in working with us. The second piece, we are really focused on our funding programs. So we have our incentivizing innovation programs, which I'll get into a little bit on the next slide. But these are the ways that we provide funding to industry to reach solutions that then, our third prong, is delivering those solutions to our DHS end users, usually via transfer and commercialization of the funded research technologies. Next slide. So our business opportunities here, and I'm not going to go through all of our opportunities. We've done some work highlighting these on previous Insights Outreach sessions, and you can certainly get some more information there. And we are happy to answer specific questions about the particular ways of doing business, the programs that we have. But this slide really speaks to the fact that we know that R&D is not one size fits all. And we know that industry is not one giant chunk. And there's lots of different people who are working in different organizations. And we have ways of doing business across those organizations. We're interested in everything from large businesses and the innovation that's happening there down to private citizens. So we are attempting to make sure that our business opportunities really run the gamut. We want to engage everyone. We want to give everybody an opportunity to work with us. We do have programs that highlight particular areas. So our startup community, our small business community, we have programs there with our Silicon Valley Innovation Program and our Small Business Innovation Research Program. But really, we're open for business. We're open to work with you, whether you are a US citizen, whether you have an international company, academia, private citizens. Please, take a look at this. We have information on our website, but this gives you an idea of the programs that, based on your type of innovator, we have available. Next slide. So we have opportunities to engage. I would encourage you to take a look at these now and going forward. Keep an eye out on them in the future. Most current and upcoming next week is our Silicon Valley Innovation Program Demo Week. So we have the registration site here on the slide, and I'm sure someone will put it in the chat. But this is an opportunity to get a feel for the 26 programs that have been funded right now in our Silicon Valley Innovation Program. So this is the startup community. We're harnessing the work that's done in the commercial sector for DHS missions, and really excited to highlight the technologies and hear from industry and government via panels next week, 4 days. So if you have some time, join us for that virtual session. Our SBIR program, I'd encourage you to learn a little bit more if you're a US small business interested in working with DHS. We do quite a robust SBIR program, and we will, if you take a look at our portal, we will have information on upcoming solicitations. You can learn a little bit about what we do, how we run our program, and take the opportunity to get ready for our next release for our SBIR Phase 1 program. Our long-range broad agency announcement, we have a lot of information on our long-range BAA, which is a 5-year solicitation. We recently updated the topics for that in March of this year. So if you haven't taken a look at that in a while, that's our sort of standing open invitation to the S&T community to work with us. Bring your ideas. We have very high level mission needs. We also are running a sort of a sister webinar that dives into more detail on our long-range BAA called Long Range BAA Today. And the link that we have here really gets into a couple of recent sessions that dive into topics on the long-range BAA. So those focus on speaking to the program manager for those topics to understand a little bit more about what we're seeking in those areas. So if you have some time, if you're interested, if any of the topics that were highlighted on the Long Range BAA Today sessions are of interest, take a look at those videos. They might answer some questions you have about how to work with us and what we're looking for there. And then finally, prize challenges. We will certainly post information about any upcoming challenges we have. But if you aren't familiar with the challenge.gov website, that is where challenges across the federal government are posted. So you can take a look at what other agencies are doing too. And then that's also where we post information. These graphics on this slide are 2 previous slides that prizes that we had. And then we'll expect to post some in the future as they come up. Next slide. So finally, some resources that we have. We have the S&T website. There is a lot of information on there about how to work with us. We have an entire page on current opportunities, which we do keep current. We are updating it constantly to make sure we're capturing in one spot the available opportunities at S&T that are open for proposal We want to make sure that you're not having to dig around looking for the information. We want it all easy to find, links from there to where you're trying to get to and what you're interested in. So take a look at that slide page, and we're certainly able to connect with you, answer questions. We also have an industry outreach form. So we are looking to get some information from you if you're interested in hearing from us in the future. We do a lot of outreach via email associated with events like this, information about solicitations that are going to come out. So if you take a look at that outreach form and you provide some information to us, we can make sure you're on our mailing list going forward so that you're aware of what's going on, and we can continue the dialogue outside of this conversation. So with that, I think that's all I am going to say about OIP today. So I think I'm going to turn it back to Mike Robertson.
All righty. Thank you, Megan. And thank you, Don and Jen, for the overviews of your programs. So what I'd like to do now is take a moment to have a conversation about your collaboration and engagement efforts, and actually have a three-parter for each of you. The first is, what success look like for your office? How do you measure that success, either quantitative or qualitatively? And then finally, can you give us an example of a success that you're really proud of? And I think to start, we will go with Don for this.
Sure, Mike. So yeah, I think what success looks like for us is, continuing to hold the rigorous analysis in our process that's always been detailed in the legislation and final act. That is first and foremost, with our expert teams of subject matter experts in the FFRDCs that we have contributing to our technology, subject matter experts, and our econ and insurance analysis, ensuring that we hold rigor in the process and ensuring that we are getting back to an efficient model, and continue to impact the landscape of getting quality reviews of effective technology that really do hold to the spirit of the legislation, to the regulations and the final rule of anti-terrorism technology to impact the landscape. And I'd say, a shining example of that has been our excellent partnership with some of the major sports leagues, specifically the NFL, and our work with them in approving and reviewing their best practices for security that they've promulgated throughout their league. Others have benefited from that. So that really is I heard someone mention force multiplier. I think it was you earlier. And that really is something that we view as part of our role and part of a very big measure of success, something that we're proud of.
All righty, thank you. Over to Jen.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Mike. So I think for us, it depends a little bit on what section of the program you're looking at, because we have that three-pronged approach, looking at the centers of excellence, or then looking at workforce development and MSIs. If you're looking at the centers of excellence, our success would be watching the research grow and making sure that we're continuing to deliver and tackle problems that are of direct benefit to our components. When we're able to identify those problems that are coming down the road that maybe they hadn't seen, or we're able to come to them with a novel approach saying, hey, have you thought about X, Y, and Z, and be able to really serve a need that they hadn't yet seen coming. That's really important to us. And watching over the years that the research grow and watching those portfolios grow and seeing the components get excited about it. Each of the centers of excellence has a board of directors. Seeing the board of director engagement to help us make sure that we are really delivering for those components is very important. Additionally, if you're getting into the workforce development side or the MSI side, being able to bring students into the fold of DHS is really important and really fantastic to see. And just over the past couple of years, watching the numbers of students that we've been able to place for internships has just been fantastic and really exciting. And it's been a great opportunity for not only the students, but for us at DHS as well. They've filled some really important roles for us and done some fantastic research. And just watching those numbers sneak up is absolutely fantastic, and something that we're going to continue to try and do.
All righty, thank you. And then next we'll go to Megan.
Sure. So this year, if people have been tuning into our Insights Outreach series, you've probably got an idea that we're very focused on reaching new innovators and organizations that are interested in working with us. We want to promote S&T. We want to encourage new partnerships that benefit, the organization broadly. So, connecting to people who are then aware of our business opportunities and are then able to commercialize their technology. I mean, that's the long end game, right? We want to be able to tell that story, have that success. That's certainly one way of measuring that for us. We're also very focused on growing the programs that we have. An example of that is our Homeland Security Startup Studio. It's a partnership that we were running with FedTech, and we just concluded our first cohort of teams that were built around federally funded technologies, including a technology that came out of one of the centers of excellence. So we're interested in helping to teach entrepreneurial skills, build companies, and growing the market for DHS technologies. We're already thinking about our 2022 cohort, and we're looking for people who are interested in participating with that. And then, another measure of success is our ability to respond to DHS needs. And, over the past year, like Mike was mentioning, requirements around COVID response and mitigation have certainly been significant there. Our Silicon Valley Innovation Program was able to divert resources last summer and put out a call with 5 different topics related to COVID-19 response and future mitigation. So they were, engaging the startup community to partner with us. And then our cooperative research and development agreement team was able to, for example, put a CRADA in place within 24 hours for one of our labs related to COVID-19 testing. So being able to have those quick responses and show the impact that we are reaching for end users is certainly another measure of success.
Cool. Thank you all. So it's interesting. A couple of you mentioned your links to DHS and the components and their success. So just to help us make sure we all are on the same page, can you talk a little bit and explain how your division fits into the broader context of DHS? How do you engage with either the DHS components or other interagency partners or industry or academia to meet the goals of the department through your partnership opportunities? And once again, I think we will start with Don.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. And really, the Safety Act is designed to primarily work with innovators in the private side. We do assist and called out in the regulations about block designations for demonstrable technologies and we work a number of block designations with TSA and CISA and CBP. So we do help the components in streamlining certain types of technologies that they're familiar with and fielding on a regular basis. But our major work is with the private industry and sparking, innovation in anti-terrorism technologies that way. And a good example, that I view is the one certification level for they call it DT&E, which is Developmental Test and Evaluation designation, but it's really operational testing for mature technologies that are ready for that. It's innovation. It allows companies to manage the risk while they're still in an operational proof of principle phase, collecting the necessary effectiveness data for them to take it to a higher level of protection in the designation or the certification piece of the protection levels within the Safety Act. So that is was a unique piece of the final rule that was written to really spark innovation, and that's where the Safety Act office really leans into and talks with folks and helps them frame out what we mean by operational effectiveness with our subject matter experts. And so that's really a a sparking of innovation and really leans forward into the mission of DHS S&T as the R&D arm of the department.
Cool. That was very helpful, Don. How about over to Jen?
So components are integral parts of our process from start to finish. We rely on component representatives to help us when we're drafting the notice of funding opportunity. To stand up a center is a significant undertaking that requires significant resourcing over a decade. It's a 10-year period. So when we're first standing up a center, we want to ensure that we get those research questions absolutely correct, and we'll be producing research of relevance over the next 10 years. Once the centers are stood up, we rely heavily on the components to participate. So we ask of them that they will serve on boards of directors. Again, each center has a board of directors. The board of directors advises the federal program manager on needs, challenges, anything that would be of relevance to ensure that we're tailoring research to component needs. We also ask that they participate in biennial reviews. Every center every other year goes through a biennial review, which is an extremely deep dive into the entirety of a center's portfolio. So the research projects are addressed for both scientific merit and for relevance to the department. We also, going back to the internship concept in workforce development, we are looking to the components for internship placement and to advocate on behalf of our students and the workforce. So we rely, basically in everything we do, we rely heavily on the components.
Pretty cool. Thank you, Jen. It's good to hear about the COEs and how they help to operationalize that science. And then over to Megan, you've literally have industry in your name. So I suspect you may have something to tell us about that.
Sure. I think obviously we're trying to be the connector between industry and the DHS component end users. S&T and industry partnerships in particular has a number of unique authorities that allow us to undertake these, interesting ways of doing business with industry. Our way of operating our SVIP program, our SBIR program, we manage the cooperative research and development agreements across the department. We run prize authority for the department. So we are trying to sort of be that conduit for industry to be able to help the components reach their end mission. And I think what we bring to the table is, interesting missions that we're able to communicate out via these funding opportunities, and interested end users in the components. So in the case of, the Silicon Valley Innovation Program, for example, you have people who have never really maybe considered working with the government before, who then have an interesting mission space that lines up with a commercial offering that they've been thinking through, and they have an interested end user that we're bringing to the table who's helping them, involved in testing and evaluation. So I think there's, that bridge is really exciting for people. And I think it's, getting hands-on access and an understanding of our mission needs. And we're really helping to make that happen in a lot of cases.
Right. Cool. Thank you so much, Megan. And also thank you, Don and Jen, for the very informative overviews. And then I think some good information in terms of how you define success and how you connect people together. I think with this, we'll turn it back over to Dee to go through some resources and perhaps some Q&A.
Thank you so much, Mike. So we'll go ahead and we'll move over to Q&A in just a minute. And then so I invite you to just send us some of your questions in the chat box, in the Q&A box. But while you're thinking about those questions, I'd like to note a few resources for you all to find information on our websites. Some of that information may have already been put in the chat, but I just want to reiterate that, most of these websites and links, I know you may want to write them down, but we want to make sure we put them in the chat so that you'll have it right there on the spot. Because our websites for more information on collaboration opportunities, the Safety Act, university programs, and industry partnerships. If you've just too much information, I know we talked about, the panelists talked about a lot today, You can contact me directly, D. Parker, at the snt.innovation@hq.dhs.gov if you have any questions. So let's see, let's go right on and hop into our questions. Well, this one actually seems like this will go to Jen of OUP. So it's a two-part question. The first one is, if my university wants to get involved in COE research, how can we?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, the COE network is a vast one, and we are always looking for new partnerships and welcome the opportunity to partner with new universities. There are two primary ways to do that. The first is through a targeted BAA, which is released by each of the centers. They're done on an annual basis, and that will address a specific problem set or a specific gap that that particular center is looking to fill. The second is the centers have rolling BAAs, which are, as the name would imply, less specific than the targeted BAAs. Those are typically open year-round or for a much longer duration, but it's just a way for folks to come and work with the universities and say, hey, I have a great idea pertaining to X. So I missed the first step there, which would be first look and see which COE is most relevant to your expertise or your area of study or practice, and look and see when those BAAs are open for that particular center.
Great. And then the second piece of this question is, how does DHS decide which universities become COEs?
Great question. We get that one a lot. So in order to be designated as a COE, there's an extensive competition that leads up to that designation. And it starts about 18 months before the award is even made. So the topic is designated from DHS, and it's usually Office of University Program staff doing extensive market research as to what that need might be. That can be done through surveys of the market, looking to see where the needs within the component are, significant customer engagement. So again, we're out there speaking with the components to see where those needs are. We also need to ascertain what a field of study that could be sustained and relevant for 10 years is. So we need to find that sweet spot of a topic that's specific enough to yield actionable results, but not so specific that the research will dry up essentially over 2 years or no longer be relevant over a 5-year period. It needs to be something that will be sustainable over 10 years. And once we've identified that topic, we develop a notice of funding opportunity with our component stakeholders to ensure that we really truly have that subject area nailed down and give universities something specific that they can write that response to. So again, it has to be an accredited US-based university, but the partnership opportunities are absolutely endless.
Thank you so much, Jen. And then this next question looked like it'll be for Dawn. The question is, can I contact someone directly to talk about my specific technology and potential applications for the Safety Act?
Sure, good question, Dee. Yeah, absolutely. You can email us directly at osai@hq.dhs.gov. And you can call our helpline at 202-254-8637. Again, the helpline number is 202-254-8637. And I can see that they put it in the chat for everyone. So that's the most direct way. And I also mentioned in the discussion about looking at our website. There's a wealth of information about the application process, who we are, what fits as anti-terrorism technologies, the scope of the program, the history, that kind of thing. So, and some representative examples of technologies that have been approved on the website. So both those two avenues are the most direct.
Great information. And then this is a great question right here. Megan, I think I'll let you take this one. And if anyone else in the offices want to chime in after her, that would be great. So the question is, what is your future vision to continue collaborating and innovating for Homeland Security?
That is a great question. I could go on for a while, but I will keep it quick. I think, I want to, and I mentioned this earlier, I want to be able to tell the story about engaging with new people and through events like this, then to have someone become aware of a business opportunity, a partnership with S&T, and then get that, developed solution into the hands of end users. I'd love to be able to tell that story. And I think we are on our way to doing that. It's events like this, and I certainly would love to hear any feedback from the audience on other things you want to hear about from us. How can we continue to engage with you? I want to make sure that we are coming to you with information and we're not just asking you to try to find it from us. So the future really would be continue to make it easier, continue to find ways to partner with a very diverse and engaged group of industry performers. I certainly want to make sure that we are reaching out as widely as possible to get new people to work with us. And I want to continue to grow our programs, promote access and successful commercialization of the R&D technologies, and also develop new programs, new ways, leveraging the authorities that we have to think even more creatively about innovation and partnership opportunities going forward.
Thank you, Megan. Anyone else like to share?
I'd be happy to chime in on this one. And I'm glad to have another opportunity, because I was completely remiss when you asked about success stories and not mentioning the MBA program. So this is a great opportunity to bring that up again. That is a huge success story for OUP, is getting this MBA program up and running. It's a great program. And I would also like to highlight that it is not just for federal government or DHS employees. It's open to anyone that would be interested in applying, anyone that would be interested in attending the program. It is run through George Washington University, so you have to apply through them, but it's a really great program, a really interesting program, and one that we are very excited about. For the private sector, our future vision, I think we would really like to engage to a greater extent with the private sector. We are exploring ways and opportunities to make those connections. Not surprisingly, our connection to academia and the academic world has been a little bit more seamless, but we're really eager to start to engage with increasing frequency with the private sector and the industry. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that that's all we have time for questions. I really wanted to just say before I close out that, everyone knows that the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games ended last month, but I must say that this panel has definitely smashed the competition and brought home the gold at this webinar. So I just want to thank all of you guys for participating today. This has been a great 7th webinar. So I want to just say thank you again to Mike, Don, Jen, and Megan for today. And if you have any follow-up questions, or if we weren't able to get to your question today, be sure, like I said before, to send it to the innovation inbox, which is snt.innovation@hq.dhs.gov, which I know is in the chat box. And I just want to say, we invite you to join us at our next one, our next innovation webinar, which will be held on Tuesday, October the 5th. And we are going to be learning about our priorities, partnerships, and demand signals. We are going to put this in the link in the chat, and we want you to go ahead and click and register right away. We hope to see you there. And I want to say again, thanks to everyone who joined us today. And I want to say again, thanks to the panelists for joining us. This was a successful webinar, and I just want to thank everyone. So don't forget to join us next month.